Coming up on tonight's UAP News Show, TMZ's UFO Revolution reveals Jellyfish and Chandelier UAPs.
We have an update for you from the HOC's recent SCIF meeting with the ICIG.
An Aliens in Miami update.
And one more new movie for 2024. Hey there, beautiful souls. It's your girl, Allie, and we're back at it again for another amazing episode of Weekly UAP and UFO News Show. We've combed through this past week's most exciting, intriguing, and informative happenings, and I'm stoked to get started. So without further ado, Justin, say hey.
Greetings, cosmic enthusiasts. It's Justin here, your guide to the mind-bending realm of the unknown. Welcome to the UAP Society's weekly UAP UFO News Show, your ticket to an interstellar adventure like no other. Whether you're a believer or a skeptic, get ready for a cosmic roller coaster ride through the latest updates from the far reaches of the galaxy.
You're in for a treat as we bring you the latest and greatest UAP and UFO news. So find your seats, strap in, and get ready to go on a galactic ride with us. We're going to get started.
TMZ's UFO Revolution reveals Jellyfish and Chandelier UAPs. So this week, in a three-part series called UFO Revolution, American journalist Jeremy Corbell revealed two different, never-before-seen, in the public eye, UAPs. If you haven't seen it yet, we highly recommend you checking it out. Yep. It's available for free online, and links to it will be in the description box below, along with all the other sources seen in tonight's show. So during a YouTube live stream, UAP Society's Captain Chris Lato reacted to the Jellyfish UAP footage, and we've got a clip of that here.
Okay, well, that's amazing. That is a great video. I mean, that's fantastic. And they have actually have it leaving. I mean, look at that, where it changes. You do see the background kind of gain a little bit. I don't know. Did you?
Yeah, I saw it.
It gaining is weird, man, at night. I don't know. You can get weird effects just from lighting. Like, I'm kind of getting the impression that maybe it's moving into a brighter area of lights, and like lights are hitting it, and it's changing its reflectivity or something. But does that work if it's in IR? At night, though, you will see that the environmentals work differently than in the visible spectrum. And sometimes you can just have weird visual effects, and that's why we're always changing the polarities. Again, they just never change polarities. Maybe they can. That's where you go from white hot to black hot, white hot, black hot, white hot, black hot. It just helps you break out depth. I think it helps our human brains break out depth, etc. That's a good one. I mean, that's gonna make news for sure. It's like a flying.
He manifested it. Here we are.
Monster or something. Right. It's a flying spaghetti monster. What the hell? That's what it reminded me of. The Imperial probe droid, man. That thing looks like an Imperial probe droid. Yeah, in there he basically says, we'll have to go watch it. I don't want to take away from his release. Sounds like there's more eyewitness accounts. Jeremy Corbell again killing it. George Knapp. Yeah, I hope this year that we see less vitriol. We can avoid all that and realize that most of it's probably disinformation and just keep our eye on the prize. I don't know, George. Could it be bird poop on the glass housing?
Shout out, George.
Just for the record, he doesn't think that anymore.
It's a smudge on the camera.
George does not have that viewpoint anymore.
Maybe, who knows?
Things out. Just a lonely Imperial droid. I'm going to see what's going on, everybody.
Yeah. Chris is hilarious.
I mean, this is anomalous to me. I would love to see where it goes in the water. He says it goes into the water and then shoots off at a high rate of speed.
So thank you guys for putting pictures of the Imperial probe droid in the chat. Let me see if I could feature that real quick. Here we go. In case anybody out there doesn't know what an Imperial probe droid is, I mean, I could totally see a resemblance there, just saying.
Right.
All right, cool. On News Nation, Dr. Matthew Sadagas, an associate professor of physics at the University at Albany, shares his insights on the Jellyfish UAP. Let's take a look.
So much, lots of questions to ask here. So joining us to break the video down further is Dr. Matthew Sadagas, a professor of physics at the University of Albany and an expert on UFO research, plus the author of a prodigious number of scientific publications on this very topic, including this study on UAPs just published in December. Thanks so much for joining us, Doctor. Again, we haven't verified the authenticity of this video, but it's strange looking. What's your take on it?
Well, my initial impression was that it looks like the Imperial probe droid from Star Wars Empire Strikes Back. It is not a standard or common shape of UFO or UAP, and the color change is quite strange because it implies either a camera artifact, like some sort of rescaling, or some sort of signature management, because it doesn't make sense that would be changing from hot to cold so quickly if that's what's happening. That's not really physically possible as far as we know.
And by the way, at one point, I don't know if we can slow this down when this happens, but at one point we see this thing pass over two people who seem to be completely unaware that it's over them.
Yeah, to me, that implies, again, two very different possible explanations. One, that it's not really there and is a camera artifact, or on the other hand, some sort of invisibility, some sort of signature management, which, as we know, is one of the classic UAP observables.
Well, if it were invisible, would that explain why it changes colors from black to white in that video?
No, so that particular aspect is very strange because, as Jeremy Corbell explains, the thermal imaging, and so that would imply a temperature change from hot to cold and vice versa, which really is impossible. So that, again, implies either a camera artifact, that it's not really changing temperature that quickly, or it implies some sort of signature management, which would then beg the question, if you had that ability, why wouldn't you just stay invisible? So it asks a lot of questions without very many answers right now.
What about this detail that it goes for a while and then it goes out over the water and dips down into the water and disappears for 17 minutes before reemerging?
Yeah, if we don't see that in the video that's been released in what we have so far, but transmedium travel is, again, one of those UAP observables. Mm-hmm. And if we actually had documented evidence of that, again, that may be another video. It's not in the currently released video, but that would be pretty remarkable because we don't have that ability, and no nation we know of has the ability for really good transmedium travel. We can do it, but very badly. You know, if you think of a seaplane, for example, it's both a terrible plane and a terrible boat. It's not very good at doing those things. So while we have limited transmedium capabilities, we don't have the capabilities that would allow us to seamlessly move between air and water, for example.
And what about the way it's moving? I mean, when you talked about it being a, quote, camera artifact, is that like a smudge on the lens? Or, I mean, what do you mean by that exactly?
So that was one of my initial thoughts. But when you look at the video carefully, you can actually see that the object changes in size with the zoom. That makes it unlikely that it's a smudge on the lens. And you also see the camera reticle, sort of the central four marks you see on the camera will be changing position relative to the object. So it actually makes it less likely that it's a smudge on the lens and more likely to be a physical object. But again, we don't have a lot of context. We don't have multiple vantage points in different videos. So it's nearly impossible to judge, for example, the size, the distance, the velocity, the acceleration, because we only have the one vantage point with this video.
But at this point in your mind, it is an unexplained aerial phenomenon, but that doesn't mean it's extraterrestrial in any way.
That's correct. So, like I said, my initial feeling was smudge on the lens. That doesn't seem to be borne out by looking at the entire video, but nevertheless, there's not enough context to make a conclusion. So by definition, it's unknown. Again, that doesn't mean it is something unnatural or remarkable, but right now there isn't enough data, metadata, or more of the backstory and context of who originally took the video.
Nick Pope, who investigated UFOs for the UK Ministry of Defense, also weighed in on this phenomena on News Nation. So let's hear his take now.
Called Nick Pope. Spent his career investigating UFOs for the UK Ministry of Defense, and he's just great at this stuff. So, first of all, Nick, what do you make of this whole temperature, color change, and then also this transmedium capabilities of going in and out of the water and the air?
Well, the change in color, which normally could represent a temperature change, may be an artifact of the camera and the system. We don't know yet what this is. There are so many pieces of the puzzle that have yet to be confirmed. This is very early days. So I don't want to say about the temperature change. And again, with the transmedium travel, so far, the only bit of this video that I've seen is the bit that you're showing now. I have yet to see the part where it apparently goes into the water and comes out. But if that is what people are saying it is, that is certainly something to watch. And it's one of these so-called 5 observables, this apparent ability to move seamlessly between water and air that we hear about. And that is noteworthy for sure, if it's verified.
Right. Okay. Perfect. Thank you for that. And first of all, we don't have the video yet of the water dive, but the part about being verified, how do you vet this stuff? How does one go about vetting this kind of video?
Well, I think the first thing is obviously to ask the Department of Defense, and I think News Nation have an inquiry in. I actually reached out to Public Affairs myself earlier, and they said they would get back to me on that. So I think they're burning the midnight oil at the Pentagon tonight. Look, Jeremy Corbell does have a proven track record of bringing forward footage and still photographs that do turn out to be genuine. So I'm betting that this is going to be the real deal. But as I say, there are still pieces of the puzzle we don't have. And I think this is going to be a test. Dr. Sean Kirkpatrick, who was the director of Pentagon's Arrow unit, stepped down at the end of last year. His deputy, Timothy Phillips, is in place. This is a big test for him. How's he going to respond to this? I think we want this. Congress wants information about this sort of thing, not from independent filmmakers, but from the Pentagon.
Yeah, I agree. And I can't wait to have you back when you get the answers that you're getting, because I think we're all racing to get the same answers. So, Nick, keep your phone handy. I'm going to call you back. Thanks for this tonight.
Thank you.
According to a Liberation Times article titled, "Newly released thermal footage captures jellyfish-shaped UFO intrusion at U.S. Joint Operations Base," written by Christopher Sharp on January 9th, 2024, says, quote, "The jellyfish-shaped UAP has a historical record, with documented cases such as a reported sighting over East Kilbride, Scotland in 2003. In 2021, a video presentation was uploaded onto YouTube of cruise ship captain Kate McHugh referencing an encounter with a black jellyfish giant, which was caught on film and floated down the length of the ship before descending," end quote. So let's watch a clip of Captain Kate McHugh describing that event with bonus videos of her TikTok and Instagram sightings.
And I had a drone on board, so I thought it would be a nice night to catch a sunset. I had the drone in my hand, and someone said, "What's that?" And we look up, and there was, I put it on TikTok, it looked like a black jellyfish, a gigantic black jellyfish, and it sailed right over the retreat, directly through the center line of the ship, right through our X and our stack, and just floated through. Thing was, we had no wind, maybe 5 knots at the time, but this thing was cruising along about 10, 15 miles per hour, just cruised right over, and as it passed the stern of the ship, it went a couple hundred meters, maybe 300 to 400 meters, and then it started to descend into the water. But because it was sunset, we couldn't put a rescue boat down to go see what it was, but it disappeared into the water, and we have no idea. It wasn't a drone, there was no noise associated with it, so if you want to see our UFO, it's on TikTok.
Yeah, they're so weird looking.
What is? I thought it was the drone.
This one, the UFOs are back.
Apparently it's common for her to see these things.
Look how fast it starts moving.
Okay, so it seems that this cruise ship captain is pretty familiar with seeing UFOs from aboard her ship called the Celebrity Edge. The first video of her speaking whoever put that together showed the wrong clip of her UFO in it. They showed the wrong UFO instead of the black jellyfish UFO. So that's why I showed that video, then the black jellyfish, then the extra content that she sees. But I just think it's wild that she has so much footage. The Chandelier UAP also made its public debut, and in this News Nation clip, we hear from Jeremy Corbell himself discussing the details and implications of such a phenomena.
Investigative journalist and co-host of the Weaponized podcast, Jeremy Corbell, is the one who released that video. And today he dropped yet another image of a separate UFO sighting. It's being called the Chandelier UFO because of its shape. A new documentary series hosted by Corbell shows the moment he speaks to an unidentified U.S. intelligence official about this puzzling image.
So what was the most impressive thing to you about this video, which the world has not seen yet?
The fact that it makes no sense. It is just the most bizarre structure with no purpose and with speed that has everyone across the intelligence community just asking questions and trying to figure out what this thing is. There is no wings. There's seemingly no place for anyone to sit on. It's just a bizarre shape.
All right, we have the picture of the Chandelier UFO, as it's being called, but where's the video? Let's bring in investigative journalist Jeremy Corbell to find out. So what's the answer? Where's the video, Jeremy?
Yeah, that's part of the story, and I think I'm going to have to answer that at another time. But I will say this, is that there is more footage. That is a fact. So some people got to see portions of it within the intelligence community, and I'm so happy that people are coming forward. That's kind of the point of why you put some of this stuff out. There is a bigger story to tell. The object did go into the water for 17 minutes, and then it did come out and shoot off at an extraordinary speed.
Wait, are you talking about the jellyfish UFO or the Chandelier UFO?
Right. So let's separate the two for your audience.
Yeah.
So what we are calling the jellyfish UFO is a strange morphology. I mean, it looks like a jellyfish, and because it went in the water, we dubbed it that. Some people called it the spaghetti monster, and that's awesome. But the other one, the chandelier, it's because if you look at it from the bottom, it looks like a chandelier. They're two separate events, military filmed footage of designated UAP by our intelligence agencies. So I'm talking about the jellyfish UFO is the one that actually showed transmedium capability. It did go into the water for 17 minutes, did come up and shoot off at an extraordinary speed.
When you say these videos were made by the military, made by what kinds of cameras, on what kinds of equipment?
Yeah, it was actually called the MX-20 was the actual system, but we have surveillance platforms to protect bases. So this is the first time in history we are seeing a designated UAP, an unknown and unidentified, that it is moving into a restricted base. It is an incursion, in fact. So this is the first time you're seeing that. We've heard about this, how UFOs will come in, they'll turn on or shut down nuclear weapons in Russia and China. Well, this is the first time you're seeing footage of an incursion of a designated UAP by our intelligence agencies.
But when you say, I mean, you know, when we say designated UAP, that it has been designated a UAP by our intelligence agencies, that doesn't mean it's alien life. It just means we don't know what it is, right?
Oh, correct. Yeah, we don't know what it is. It's unidentified, which is very dangerous. To have something that you don't know its capability or intent, that is a big deal. So UAPs in general, I don't even know where they're from, who's controlling them. But the fact that they can outpace, outmaneuver, and outperform anything we have, that is an issue.
Yeah, they're doing something that we don't have the technology to do. And we have supposedly the most sophisticated military on Earth right now.
It's a problem.
Okay. The intelligence analyst that you interviewed in the documentary about the Chandelier video said that UFO, quote, made no sense. What was he talking about, and what else is unusual about that one?
Right. So to answer your first question, why is it an image and not a video? Because as a journalist, I can obtain and release certain things that do not have a problem with national security. It doesn't jeopardize our national security. So sometimes when I obtain things, I can create and put out a still image from a video. But there are sensitive things about releasing military film footage, especially incursions in military bases. So the Chandelier one, you're seeing an image like the Mosul Orb, which is another military filmed UAP that I put out with George Knapp, my mentor in journalism, right? So this is just another image. Now, I hope the full video of the Chandelier UAP does come out. We're even having pressure from inside of government to get answers from the Inspector General of the intelligence community. But as a journalist, I can put this out in good conscience and say, this is what's going on. Now, why it was unique? Well, the heat signature is unlike anything I've ever seen before, but also the people that have seen the full videos within the intelligence community, they report to me that there's no flight control surfaces. They don't know how this thing was maneuvering the way it was and just kind of rotating. It is an unknown. It's not U.S. capable. We don't know whose it is, and that is a problem.
So just like Chris Lato said, I really want to see the footage of this UAP going into and out of the water and zipping
Same.
off to space.
Same.
Transmedium capabilities are one of the 5 observables.
And in case you are unfamiliar with the 5 observables, I have an example of that for you here. Give me one moment. Okay, so the 5 observables of UAPs are, first one is sudden and instantaneous acceleration.
The second one is hypersonic velocities without signatures.
3 is low observability.
And then 4 is transmedium travel.
And 5 is positive lift. And I think most of the people that responded to this incident referred to the 5 observables. So I just wanted to make sure that all of you guys had that and knew what they were. So we heard from a lot of different people. We heard a lot of opinions. There's a lot of different things going on around about this. Let's open up the floor to you guys and hear what you have to say.
And just point out that Cosmic Cathedral said in chat about cuttlefish in response to, there's nothing natural that changes its heat signature and goes for. I understand that you might not be an oceanographer, but yes, there is. It's known as the cuttlefish, and octopi do that, and so it's not something that would just within the realm of possibility for an organism, let alone technology to be able to do that. Okay. And I know a lot of skeptics state that it's like possibly, bird poo. And I don't think bird poo, even though it might be 3D on a lens, can rotate, because if you look at some of the footage, when it's really zoomed in and analyzed, rotating.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you could see it rotating. And as far as, what's that terminology when you get like the little fractals and stuff like that on your screen? I don't really believe it's that either. Like a smudge or any kind of. Thank you. Artifacting. I don't believe it's any kind of artifacting either, because artifacting can move, but again, artifacting doesn't ever really appear to be rotating.
Yeah.
And so I think this is really good video footage. I understand we want to have the object going into the water and then shooting back out. Mm-hmm. Of course, that goes naturally. But when someone says, I'd really like to have, 5 different camera angles of this, well, sure, who wouldn't?
Yeah.
But is 5 going to be enough? You know what I mean? It's like, okay, well, you gave me 5. Now I'd like to have 20. So, I mean, at what point in time do we go, okay, the footage is as good as it is? Mm-hmm. And I've always kind of been brought to the thought that, this was provided to Jeremy Corbell by somebody who maybe, to me, that's not very important. But I think that these things are edited before they're given to Jeremy. So, a lot of people say, hey, I would love to see all of the footage. As far as I know, he's got what he's got. And the reason why they didn't release anything else is because they didn't want to see the transmedium ship going through. That way it leaves the question in the viewer's mind, well, is this an artifact? Is it bird poo? Mm-hmm. Is it, whatever? And leaves some doubt. Do we have to make our own judgments on that?
Yeah.
As far as
I would say another possibility is the person that quote unquote leaked the video. There might be something revealing in the beginning or the end of that particular clip that would let the other people know who it is that leaked the video.
Okay.
Correct.
Right. So that might be why we don't have the full video.
And
right, even though it's
right.
Mm-hmm.
I was going to say, speaking of bird poo, George, Chris Lato covered your question that you put in the chat during the live stream. What's your thoughts today? Is it still the same? Have you changed your mind? What are you thinking?
Oh, that's a great question to reflect on. When I first saw the video, I thought it was a smudge on the lens. I thought it was bird poo.
Mm-hmm.
There were some comments on Reddit that said perhaps it could be chewing tobacco that somebody spit it at the drone. But subsequent analysis showed, in isolating certain key parts of this apparent capture, showed some rotational aspect, which indicates like there's dimensionality, there's this 3D depth to this image. Like I said on yesterday's podcast, by the way, check it out on UAP Society YouTube. Boom.
Mm-hmm.
I'm about now 80% that it could perhaps be a genuine UAP. It's
80%,
unidentified.
all right. Okay.
80%. It's anomalous.
Okay.
And it's some kind of phenomena because there are shifts in its, I guess its color or camouflage and whatnot. The other 20%, I posted this Eid balloon. That's a holiday in I guess Muslim culture. I think it's
Oh, is that what this gold and white thing is over here?
Yeah, I believe it's
Okay.
their equivalent to Christmas. But I'd also like to touch upon an interview that was shown on News Nation. I think it was maybe on the second or third day since this first drop, where they actually interviewed one of the decorated military people that worked on the base, and
Yeah.
they called it the flying spaghetti monster.
Right.
And
Okay.
it was like this legend across the military base where a lot of people had seen it. So what is particularly fascinating about this interview with this Marine on News Nation was, I think the host asked the Marine if at any time in seeing this video, with him and his friends, did they see it go underwater, hang out there for 17 minutes? And he was like, no, we haven't. As far as we know, and they've seen the video multiple times, it never went in the water. They even went so far as to verify and validate and vet this guy's credentials. So, they showed him on screen with his military outfit and all these awards and decorations and stuff like that. So in my mind, it's like, it stands in stark contrast to what Jeremy Corbell was claiming about this supposedly going in the water, being in there for hanging out for whatever, and then shooting off, but a couple of the military people.
George, sorry to butt in, but
No, it's all good.
I don't know if you've seen his updated comments about what he said. He said he talked to another buddy that was on the base, and that other person confirmed to him that there was additional video of it going into the water and shooting out.
Well, if there is additional footage of it going into the water and shooting out, I would like to see that,
we don't
because
have all the video.
that would perfectly give an example of the transmedium capabilities that these craft have had. I mean, the transmedium capabilities was even referenced by David Fravor with the Tic Tac incident. Am I right? Did I say that correctly? Okay.
Correct.
Okay, cool. So yeah, I don't know. I just think that it's pretty wild. People are calling it a jellyfish, a spaghetti monster, the Imperial droid. There's all kinds of nicknames for it already. So I'm just looking forward to see what more we learn from this case. And then we didn't even get to talk about the chandelier yet. George, you posted some interesting pictures earlier about the chandelier shape, comparing it to, what is this, like a camera underneath a plane? Let me full screen you so you can explain.
Okay, so the first picture I posted, I peruse a lot of UAP platforms and stuff, and one of the main theories of this supposed chandelier capture, if you could see these red dots, that indicates some kind of smoke trail. People were theorizing that this is a capture of a missile as it shoots off and flies off into the distance. The second picture is the camera housing of this infrared camera, and perhaps the shape of this chandelier UAP might be some kind of artifact or reflection of the actual frame that's inside of the housing.
Like a diffraction limited picture, just like you see with the James Webb Space Telescope or the Hubble. There's there's part of the structure that holds the mirrors in place, can be seen in the images themselves, and there's no way to get around that. There's no way to get that diffraction limited picture 100% without having that artifact in there.
Interesting.
And so that's
consequence of it.
Yeah.
Housing. Yeah.
So that's what that's what it means when people say it's diffraction limited.
Okay.
Right.
Very cool. And the third picture, my friends, this is I guess it's an unclassified photo of a similar looking capture. And it shows, actually, that this is confirmed to be a missile, but if you notice the pattern from behind the rocket booster, it's somewhat similar to Mr. Corbell's release of this Chandelier UAP. I'm sorry if I'm pulling a Mick West here, but I got to look at it from all types of angles, right? And take it into consideration. We try to rule out prosaic explanations first, so that we're more approached. We're more leveled in our approach. Right?
Absolutely. Great Druid, you just posted a picture that I have saved on the computer as well, from a religious painting. Would you like to unmute and speak on this picture if you're able to?
Yeah, I just sorry, I'm listening and trying to go through Reddit right now and kind of find different interesting comparisons. But this was off of Reddit. Somebody was just making the correlation between it. Thought it was interesting.
Yeah, in my mind, I would imagine that they would, be able to know, if it was a missile, right? If there's a video of this thing, I'm pretty sure that the intelligence community would be able to determine, if that's a video of a missile, right?
Oh, wow. This picture that George just posted looks like straight up jellyfish in the air. That's a good one.
Yeah, it stretches back into historical antiquity, with these jellyfish
I've
kind of
never
objects.
seen this, dude.
Yeah, this is my first time seeing this one too.
There's a couple of them. Let me post some other ones.
Sure.
So you could spend hours looking at religious Renaissance paintings alone,
Oh, yeah.
other than like cave paintings and stuff, and just find UFO references all over the place.
We just need to keep an open mind about it. I really want to see the additional footage of it.
Yeah.
I definitely want to see it going in and coming out of the water. And to
That would add a
really
whole new
see
dynamic.
those other 5 observables of
Yeah.
this object, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So I'm looking forward to seeing
Updates
more
on
data.
this.
Right.
Yeah, more data and updates. We'll keep you guys posted. Promise.
Yep.
All right, moving on.
Up next, we have an update for you from the House Oversight Committee recent SCIF meeting with the ICIG.
Mhm.
Friday, January 12th, 2024, the House Oversight Committee had their long-awaited SCIF meeting with the Intelligence Community Inspector General Thomas Monheim. What did they find out? What did they learn? Did they learn anything new? Let's hear from the representatives themselves.
Okay. Did you hear anything that you didn't know? Are you being frustrated by this, like some of your colleagues are?
Well, obviously, look, the process is extremely frustrating, but actually this is the first real briefing that we've had that we've now made, I would say, progress on some of the claims Mr. Grush has made in his complaint and some of the claims he provided to Congress. This is the first time we kind of got a ruling on what the IG thinks of those claims. And so, so this meeting, unlike the one we had previously when we did this briefing, this one actually moved the needle.
Very good. So that'll lead to more public hearings?
Oh, I think this one's going to lead to a lot of things. I mean, there's a lot of new questions and a lot of new areas to ask and poke in based on what we got in this meeting.
Can you give us a sense of what new questions you have?
Well, right. So let me just give you a hypothetical because I'm not going to share anything from a classified briefing. But if someone makes 10 claims and then someone says, well, we didn't look into all 10 because they weren't all in the report, but hey, we found these 6 very credible based on it, well, then you would want to go attack those 6. That's what I'm saying. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Do you hear the same thing with Mr. Krishnamurti?
So this is what I'll say. I'm going to reiterate, we can't talk about specifics and what we got into, but what I can tell you is what Grush shared with me in an unclassified setting that I firmly believe in. I believe that he's telling the truth. I think that he is a credible witness. And what I can also say is one thing in particular that really caused me to be concerned about this whole thing is that Grush had stated to myself, Representative Burchett, and another member on the phone that there were people that were hurt hiding this information and keeping this information safe and or trying to come forward with this information. What I can tell you is I believe that claim after now leaving. That's all I'll say on that. Do you think that the administration is sending the right people? Do you think that you guys are actually talking to the right people in these classified? I think that they are sending the correct people on paper. However, there is, and it's become evident that there is an overclassification and that we are continually being stonewalled. My one concern is that we are authorizing money that is supposed to be spent on certain programs, and yet there is compartmentalization in which Congress doesn't have access to oversight in those programs, and that's a problem.
Are you more concerned leaving now than you were going in?
I feel the same. I think that I'm pretty much at the same space that I was. This entire process has been what facts do we have? Again, the credibility of the witnesses is incredibly important, and I think that we have very credible people.
How much of this is the distinction of saying, okay, there are certain programs that we have that are dark programs that we need to be very careful about letting that information out? Some of that can be attributed to what people have said versus this conversation about Grush and some of the claims he made in the open hearing about non-human biologics.
As of right now, we didn't get into the specifics of that in there, but what I will say is that it has become apparent that there is a movement, whether it's within the intelligence community or not, to prevent us from finding out more information on this. And so we are going to do what we need to do as investigators to continue to pull on whatever strings and see where they lead. I think it's incredibly important to listen to the specific words that Grush uses. Grush never said extraterrestrial or alien. He said interdimensional. I think that that's incredibly important because those are the types of things that when we go in there, there's just certain things that I think that it's important that you guys know. Thank you, guys.
Can I get clarification?
Yes,
you said interdimensional. I mean, what does that term, is this something that bends time and space? What are you getting at here?
I think that Grush, when I had talked to him on whether these were specifically extraterrestrials or alien in origin, he said interdimensional. He refused to use certain terms, and I think that's incredibly important because I think that that's really the question we're all wanting to know, right? And so I'm actually going to have a sit-down conversation with him and ask him to come back and talk to us directly because it seems that we are getting more information from the source than going into a SCIF and then not being able to tell you guys what we're talking about.
Is this stuff that we just as humans might not be able to understand if it's interdimensional?
I think that we can understand it. I think that it's just, it's an approach, right? I mean, remember, we just now for the first time in history really had Congress have whistleblowers come forward credible that we're telling the entire world that there is something other than human life forms Grush said that those were interdimensional beings. He refused to use extraterrestrial and alien. I think that's important to note, but I do have to go feed my babies, so thank you guys.
Thank you. I mean, does any of this go toward your conversation about trying to get this bipartisan bill? I mean, is there something that touched on this?
I mean, look, I think that the bipartisan bill came out of a discussion at our first hearing to ensure that pilots have an ability to report UAPs. There right now is no system for pilots or aviation personnel to report UAPs, whatever UAPs may be, and so the bill would actually do that. Obviously, we can't talk about the details of the briefing, but I think there was some interesting information, and so I think that this is a topic that I think is a national security issue, and it's really important that there's disclosure and transparency. I think that's what the public wants. I think it's also a very serious topic, and so we've got to just take it with seriousness. It is not a joke.
And without giving up state secrets here, we've had a couple other members who were just here who said they were disappointed in what they were bipartisan, Democrat or Republican. But one member used the term, what they were exploring here were, her phrase, interdimensional beings. Is that something that we're dealing with here potentially?
I mean, I think it's easy to be disappointed when you don't get all the information that you want, which I understand. I would have loved to receive much more information, but I think that it's reasonable to say that everyone that was in the room received probably new information. I certainly did, and I think that's interesting, additional information to continue the investigation and ask more questions. So definitely have more questions than less questions.
Does that term mean anything to you?
I'm not going to get into any terms. I just think that it's more important to focus on that this is a serious topic and it deserves serious attention. And I actually encourage also members of the media to continue covering this topic. I think that's really important. It is not a fringe topic. It is a serious national security topic.
Continuing the investigation, what does that mean? Is that more hearings? Is that, like, what do you think?
Well, I mean, as the ranking member of the subcommittee that oversees obviously this topic, I would like to have more hearings. And so I think we've made that request already of the committee, and I think that the hearing requires more investigation.
Who would you like to hear from next?
Look, I think it's public knowledge that everyone, folks, this is an interdepartmental effort as it relates to the agencies involved in oversight and in the UAP conversation. And so it's obviously not just the Defense Department, I think, which is at the center of this, but also our intelligence agencies.
Are you satisfied with the answers you're getting from the intelligence community today during the briefing?
I mean, I would not describe it that way. I mean, I understand that classification is complicated, and I certainly want more answers. But sure, I would have loved to receive more information, but I would not characterize the discussion as not providing new information, and certainly interesting information.
One of your colleagues said that they seem to keep sending people who either intentionally don't know or intentionally not going to say, as opposed to just.
I would disagree with that assessment. I think you have serious professionals that have long distinguished records in public service. They're trying their best to navigate a very complex issue, and yes, it's true that I probably all of us want more answers and more information. But I think that we received additional information today, which I think will lead to other actions.
Is this stuff overclassified?
I don't know. I'm not really sure, but I'd like it to be less classified.
Did you learn anything that bothered you or shook your beliefs?
I think we want more information.
Thank you.
Do you feel as though they were more transparent this time? Did you get anything that you didn't know before?
I'm more concerned than I was going into the SCIF, and I think that they have a lot of questions that remain unanswered. And Mr. Grush has made allegations that we're still trying to figure out the veracity of, and we haven't gotten the answers that we need.
And what do you mean more concerned? I mean, they stonewalled more, or what caused you to be more concerned?
My impression is that, unfortunately, I don't think that we're looking at the substance of his claims, and instead we're kind of dancing around kind of the procedural nature of his claims. And I think that we have to kind of delve into the substance and kind of figure out what's what. And we don't have the answers right now. And that's very frustrating to a member of the intelligence oversight kind of function that I'm part of.
I mean, now, one of the things that Mr. Grush talked about in the open hearing, he said that there had been non-human biologics. Is that some of the type of things that you guys have gotten into and that they have not been as forthcoming on, alien spacecraft or something that's not human?
Look, everybody is wondering about the substance of those claims. And until we actually look at those specifically and try to get answers about those claims are just going to be out there. And so that's what we need to kind of delve into. And unfortunately, I just wasted time in there not kind of figuring out whether those were true, and instead kind of dancing around the edges, talking about things that aren't really as important to me. All that being said, I think that Mr. Grush has made some claims, and he's also he needs to be treated with some respect, and we need to get into the substance of his claims.
Was that asked about the non-human biologics and the alleged alien spacecraft?
I can't get into the specifics of the hearing, but let's just say that all of us were very interested in the substance of his claims, and unfortunately, I didn't get the answers that I was hoping for. I gotta go. I'm sorry. Okay, thank you.
No, heck no. This is just more of the same, more frustration. You put these guys and gals in a tough position. They're only, it's very compartmentalized, as we said. It's like looking down the barrel of a .22 rifle, and all they know is just right in that little circle. And but no, it didn't disqualify anything I've thought in the past.
What comes out of this meeting? What do you do in response to this stonewalling?
Well, it's just whack-a-mole. You go to the next one until we get some answers. We got some pretty definitive stuff that I'm sure y'all get from somewhere else about what was discussed, and to me it was it made what I think more credible.
So they did tell you something. They didn't tell you nothing.
That's correct.
Okay, because first you came out, you said we didn't learn anything new.
Well, we didn't learn anything new. It just verified what I thought.
Validated it.
Verified. No, I think they're covering this thing up. That doesn't, and these guys pretty much verified that. They, as I stated, I mean, there's not their attempt to do it, but by design, this issue is very compartmentalized.
So what does the investigation look like going forward? Is it more hearings? More
I think so, but it's got me focused on who we need to be bringing into the hearing. As I've stated, it's not about little green men and flying saucers. The issue is tens of millions of dollars on an issue that we've been told does not exist since 1947, yet they're spending that money on researching something.
So who would you prefer to bring in?
Well, last time I did that, our selection dwindled, so I'm going to keep that pretty close to the cuff because they ended up getting told not to come. Good?
We're good.
Thank you. Thank you.
Appreciate it. No.
Did you hear anything?
It's giving me a more clear perspective, a little bit more of a clear perspective. Before it's very blurry. Everything is extremely blurry, but I'm getting a little bit more clarity. Without saying anything that came out of the hearing, I will say that my worldview has not changed.
Are they okay? Then one more thing, and then I probably you. Are they obfuscating on purpose? Are they sending you to people that don't have the answers, or is it like Mr. Burgess said? It's so compartmentalized that you have to ask the right question of the right person. Is that what you're feeling?
Yes, that's exactly. I would say Tim Burgett is probably right. He is correct.
So with this person doing this briefing, did you get any of the right questions that he was willing to put out there and give you something that you feel like you've learned something?
I feel like he gave a lot of clarity to me. I think that some people are looking for things. This was not the venue to determine those things. But for me, I got a lot of clarity.
Are you satisfied with the answers you got today? Or?
I'm not full. I mean, not fully. But it does give us a direction to go next, and that's the key thing. So
what do you guys go from here?
I can't say. Leave alone. Thank you.
So did you hear anything in there that moves the needle forward, that changes what you thought before? Are they stonewalling you? Walk us through what do you know now that you didn't know when you walked in?
I just think what most of the American people fear is true, is that the government, there's a concerted effort to conceal as much information as possible, both from Congress and to the general public. So I asked very specific questions and was unable to get specific answers. And so that's a problem, and we're not going to stop until we get the truth.
So do you think you're not getting specific answers because they won't tell you or because they don't know?
Well, I think what you see is a very compartmentalized effort. So by compartmentalizing the information to such a degree that if you don't ask the specific question to the specific person that has that piece of information, so we could take a puzzle with 100 pieces and disseminate it to 47 people. So unless you ask the right person for the right piece of the puzzle, you're not going to get an answer, and that's what's happened here. Nothing that I can disclose. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so before we comment on that ourselves, I just wanted to point out what journalist Ross Coulthart tweeted.
All right, so in a tweet, Ross Coulthart says, well, this makes things very clear on what the ICIG thinks of Dave Grush's credibility. From Dem, Florida, member of the House Representatives Oversight Committee, Jared Moskowitz, a bipartisan meeting attended by 16 members, they now know this is real. And Jared said, based on what we heard, many of Grush's claims have merit.
Okay, we heard it from him.
Yep.
So, what do you guys think of all this? I will open the floor.
I think it comes down to semantics. The interdimensional statement that Luna, as well as others, have mentioned in that press debriefing. it certainly contrasts with this extraterrestrial hypothesis, which, has been traditionally seen throughout the decades. And I'm reminded of the time when Dr. Kirkpatrick was on television, and he met with some of the lawmakers. I think it was with Gillibrand. It was televised. He made that statement: "Hey, I have oversight over everything. I can see every black project. I've got access to all of this stuff. I haven't seen any evidence of extraterrestrial origin or reverse engineering programs. But if someone was sitting at that table that knew their metal, they should have asked him, well, what about interdimensional evidence? Have you seen even ultra-terrestrial evidence?" So I think it's all in the semantics and that the language that these government officials use to kind of like slither and slide away from becoming forthright with the answer that we're all looking for. So I think one of the great things that this meeting with the ICIG had given to these lawmakers was insight to ask the right questions using the correct terminology.
And who to ask those questions to.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree with George. I think George is like hitting the nail on the head with this one. And I'd like to say that as much as we are about writing our congressmen, writing our congresswomen, and saying, hey, you know what, you need to get on board with this issue, we should also really continue to cheer on the ones that are part of this committee that are seeking out this truth and saying, hey, you know what, since you're doing it, we're here backing you up like 100%. And I plan on doing that. I plan on doing that most definitely, like messaging all of them.
Agreed. And as these new updates come out, we will definitely be updating you guys as we come across them. So keep your eyes peeled and stay tuned, because if anything new does come out, best bet we'll have it on the show for you.
Yep.
Remember last week at the beginning of the new year, we covered the aliens in Miami incident and said that we would give you an update?
Yep.
Well, up next, we have an eyewitness account, an interesting take from a TikToker whose video has since been taken down, by the way, and a remote viewer and ET channeler Elizabeth April's take on the whole situation. So here we go.
My name is Fitz. I was there at the Bayside Mall with my family, and we all saw exactly what happened. Don't pay attention to a lot of the videos that are out there. I feel like a lot of people are trying to use this for clout. But what happened, we all saw what happened, and it's pretty serious. It's been a few days, but our whole family's processing it. But I think we've kind of accepted that we were a part of this weird experience and moment. So basically, what happened was I was there with my brother Brian, and my sister and my nephew. We were looking for shoes for my nephew, and then we see a whole crowd of people outside the store, just running out in a direction. So as soon as we saw it, we were like, oh shit, what's going on? So we immediately ran out with our nephew, and we picked him up and we ran out and we followed the crowd. And then about a few seconds later, as soon as we started running, my nephew, he's autistic, so he was pointing behind us and he was saying "Blanky," which he'll usually say whenever he feels unsafe or scared. And he was pointing behind us. So me and my brother, we looked behind us, and then we see these 3, 9, 10 foot tall creatures. I'm not gonna say aliens. Everyone keeps saying it's aliens. I'm not saying aliens because I don't know what it was. None of us really knew it. As soon as it made itself more apparent, it looked like it was glitching, not like a computer pixelation, but like a wavy glitch. And whatever maybe was covering them had, unveiled or whatever. Yeah, it looked like a glitch, man. It was like a weird glitch in the Matrix or whatever. And then you could see it in its full form, all 3 of them. And then, they were all black. You saw eyes, and you could faintly see like lips. But I was about 20 feet away, because obviously everybody gave it distance, right? And they're tall. So we all just looked at them. They were just standing there. And the thing that was a little bit weird, but it was clearly observing us. It was sentient, right? Or whatever. I don't know. But it was aware of us. It looked at us, the whole crowd. And then as soon as it started walking with its big legs, it started almost glitching again, we all ran. And for anyone that's saying, where's the footage? Yeah, I know. I don't have any footage, and I'll explain why. Because when I saw it, I was in complete fear. It was something I completely froze, man. I don't care if I sound like a bitch about it. I froze. And I don't care who you are. I feel like when you're seeing something paranormal, it's different than when you're seeing a fight. Yeah, you'll probably want to record that and put it on WorldStar or whatever. When you see something paranormal, that's different. Because your reality, you can't comprehend what you're seeing. Your first instinct is it ain't to take out your phone and start recording. Your first instinct is I've never seen this before. What is this? Is it gonna hurt me or my family? That was my first #1 priority. So anyways, as soon as the creature started moving, we all just jetted out there. We ran out the front doors, and obviously we see a whole sea of cop cars, mad cop cars, where other ones were coming in, and we ran with our nephew, and then a cop stopped us. They took us a little to a bit of a safer area behind the cars, and then they asked us what we saw, and we told them what we saw. They wrote down, and they asked everybody to check their phones. Not everybody, because there was mad people like running away too, right? They couldn't get everyone. So I'm wondering if someone's gonna post a video. But yeah, they looked through everyone's phone. I didn't record anything, so I was fine. None of us recorded anything, so we were basically free to go. It seemed more like it was an interdimensional thing. Someone's coming into our dimension or whatever, a bunch of them. And I think, that it was just interesting, the police response, because there was a whole bunch of them. This ain't for no teenagers. No, this was for something way bigger. And it almost seemed like the cops had like a already made strategy for it, because they surrounded one of the beings with like all their police cars. They blared it up even louder because you could hear that it was louder. Maybe as an attempt to like distract it or let it know like, hey, you don't belong here, right? And they were trying to like slowly move alongside with it. But I didn't see anything else after that, because me and my family, we got out of there. We went into our car, we went home. I'm still kind of like processing everything. Like, it's weird, but at the same time, I'm glad that we weren't alone in seeing it, because like it was a whole bunch of us that saw it. And it feels kind of like, you're part of something like really big. But at the same time, it's confusing, because like you want to kind of like show people. Like, I wish I took a video, man. Like, because people are gonna probably think I'm crazy, right? But yeah, I'm left with more questions. Like, we were all kind of left with more questions than anything else. But yeah, it felt like something was coming into our world or whatever, like a fucking Stranger Things episode.
They put the coordinates in backwards. They reversed them. Listen, y'all, listen. The Miami incident, right? Or at the mall. I was watching one of the victims, and he said that it seemed like a portal opened up, and all of a sudden these beings just came through. So it got me thinking, well, where did they come from? Well, they had to come through a portal. So just for shiggles, I went to Google Earth, went to the mall, got the coordinates, flip-flopped the coordinates, put that in Google Earth, and just to see where it would take me, it took me to the center of Antarctica. Do y'all remember what I was talking about? How there's an alien civilization in Antarctica living under the ice? Do y'all remember that? Because if not, let me remind you, there's supposedly a alien race living in Antarctica. And if they were trying to go to this alien base in Antarctica, they swapped the coordinates and ended up at the fucking mall in Miami. I'm tripping. Go to Google, find the coordinates for the mall, reverse the coordinates, and it will take you to Antarctica. I shit you not.
And I'd already described what I do and how I receive information, which is through remote viewing, which is the process of getting myself into a deep state of trance meditation, leaving my body, and then being able to really travel and go and experience whatever it is I want to go, travel, and experience. Okay, here's what I saw. So absolutely what I saw, there were interdimensional beings there. I did not see them beam in from the roof. I did not see them come out of some sort of black box. What I saw is that they just materialized there. Okay. So then the question is, why? What the heck were they doing there? And then the question is, was this Project Bluebeam? Was this some sort of elaborate hoax? Was this a projection? Because we all know that they have that technology, the holograph technology. We all also know that the Epstein files were just released. And is it a distraction from that? I mean, what really is going on here? It's exciting. So then I went, because I couldn't get any of that information about the intention behind it from the scene. All I'm looking at is the information. All I'm looking at is the scene and the chaos and everything. Something else that came through when I was taking a look at even just the aftermath of seeing them was police officers that surrounded the building, that surrounded the mall, made sure to take the names of every individual who was coming out of the mall. Once again, to follow up with. I think, I'm just going to speculate here, I'm just going to plant a seed, and then I'll tell you why, what was the deal? Why were they there? Were they even real? All of that. But my speculation here is that in the coming couple of months, very similar to the, he's not real, the chick on the plane who said, he's not real, or whatever.
I'm getting the fuck off, and there's a reason why I'm getting the fuck off, and everyone can either believe it or they cannot believe it. I don't give two. But I am telling you right now, that mother back there is not real.
We're going to see some sort of statement coming out. We could very well potentially see some whistleblowers who were first-hand accounts. So why? What happened? So in order to answer was this contracted? Was this some giant hoax? Was this a government plot? What was this? I had to go over to the Galactic Federation. So I then remote viewed. I astral traveled up to their mothership, and I asked a being there who, his name is Kinetic. He is a Pleiadian being, very beautiful, kind-hearted being who works for the Security Council, which deals with all matters of security on planet Earth. So I go to him, really, I've been going to him for over a decade now for information. So I said, yo, Kinetic, what happened? What's going on? Like, what was going on with these beings? essentially Kinetic told me that that was not it wasn't a plot by the government. It wasn't Project Bluebeam. It wasn't some sort of holographic thing. It also, it wasn't supposed to be disclosure. It wasn't really supposed to happen. And I said, what do you mean it wasn't supposed to happen? And he tells me, and this resonated at a very deep level, so I hope it does for you too. He said, Elizabeth, I don't think you realize how many interdimensional beings are all over your planet. There are beings who have permission to observe humanity and who are very interested and intrigued and curious about humanity. So these beings like to show up in public places. Sometimes they show up in malls, sometimes they show up at festivals, sometimes they love walking the Las Vegas Strip just to observe humanity, just to be among the crowd. That being said, most of the time, these interdimensional beings are completely invisible, right? They exist in a different frequency. They exist in a different dimension. 99.999% of the time, human beings cannot see the aliens that are walking around. So what happened? What happened is planet Earth got hit with a series of solar flashes in the past month. What does that do? It increases our vibrational frequency on planet Earth. So, the interdimensional beings that love just hanging out with humans undetected are all of a sudden showing up super casual, like, yep, we're here for the human party, and all of a sudden they're being seen. Right? So, this is why some of the first-hand witnesses and the accounts of the people who were in the mall said they looked like shadows because they could not see their full physical form. Because they weren't in a high enough frequency to see their full physical form, but they were in a high enough frequency to see something. And so it just makes me laugh thinking about these three aliens being like, yo, we're back at our stomping grounds, we're hanging out at the mall, and they just show up in the middle of this mall and all of a sudden everyone's looking at them screaming and they're shocked, right? Because they've done this before. They have permission to do it. It was not meant for disclosure. It was not some sort of government ploy. Think about it this way. If it was a government setup, would they not be talking about aliens showing up at the mall? The whole point of Project Bluebeam and projecting an alien invasion is that all the news media outlets cover the alien invasion. They wouldn't be covering up something if that was the whole point. You know what I mean? So anyway, I was just kind of laughing at the whole scene and the situation, how unexpected it was for everyone, especially the beings who showed up. So what's going to happen is, moving forward, all over planet Earth, we are going to see more interdimensional beings.
Interdimensional beings seems to be a hot topic tonight, don't you guys think? I mean, everybody's using that word, interdimensional beings now. I just find that so synchronicity that everybody's using this word. I mean, 10 years ago, nobody was talking about other dimensions or things like that, but now all of a sudden it's all over everybody's everything. Right. What do you guys think, Justin?
Yeah, I don't know. This is a tough one for me to wrap my head around, to be honest.
Cosmic Cathedral and I were just talking yesterday about how it seems like there's been this growing consciousness within our civilization about interdimensional beings and interdimensionality. And to me, whether this is the case at the mall or not, it still brings it up.
Right.
Yeah. It definitely brings it, though, into the conversation. Regardless of how it got there, it's in the conversation. And that's wonderful. Do I think it's something to distract us from what's going on with that Jeffrey Epstein? Hey, we could be distracted by more than one thing at a time. So no, I don't think it has anything to do with that. I just think that's trying to water down possibly even the thought of interdimensional beings just showing up in front of us. It's kind of interesting though, like if we were to be okay, what if they just showed up in front of people and said, hey, yeah, here we are. And people be bugging out, people be weirded out, which is why they don't do that. Okay. And that's pretty obvious to me. Yeah, I'm still kind of on the fence about this whole thing. I'm kind of going to where it's probably going to be like youth that were being, rambunctious, if you will. That's where I'm sitting at right now.
All right. Thank you, John. In the chat, I see George, you posted a whole lot of stuff about this coordinates being mixed up and going to Antarctica thing. You want to unmute and talk about that?
Yeah, sure. There's there's different types of coordinates. Supposedly the lady that mentioned reversing the coordinates of the mall, ending up supposedly in Antarctica, but those coordinates might not necessarily be correct because some researchers on these different UAP platforms say, hey, the coordinates actually point out to the Indian Ocean, and I don't know, but
Seems like you're
So-
up in the air with this too, then, huh?
So George, the coordinates aspect of it. If you just merely flip them, you end up in the Indian Ocean, right? But if you
yeah.
take the here, can you go back up? But if you take the south, all right, no, you're going too far. Right here. All right, but then you said unless of course he meant, the 80 degrees east is actually south, and the 25 degrees south is actually east. You said you will end up in Antarctica. Is that right?
That's correct. And for a lot of the conspiracy theorists out there, the reason why Antarctica might raise an eyebrow is because was it Admiral was it some kind of like a Navy guy that went down there and supposedly
Admiral Byrd.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So
We said that if we had any new information about this story, we would bring it to you. So there it is. Do what you want with it. Keep what resonates. Forget the rest. If you guys find anything else out, let me know. And last but certainly not least, another UAP related film to look forward to in 2024. Expected to be released on April 26th, 2024, a documentary called Capel Green will tell the tale of the famous Rendlesham Forest UAP incidences that happened back in 1980 in the UK. This documentary contains dramatizations and focuses on the life of Larry Warren, the original witness and whistleblower, as well as other military and civilian witnesses involved in these mysterious events that happened over the course of 2 days. Let's check out that trailer now.
We came to the edge of this field, Capel Green, and in the field, the first thing I saw was one of our airmen upset, and Robert Ball was talking to him. The guy was scared about something. And then walked forward into this field. What I could see was a 50-foot diameter, approximately, glowing mist on the ground.
Glowing mist.
I saw a red light come in, came down over the field in a downward arc, and then went to the top of this mist, and I was not far from it, and there was a flash of light that was blinding. All of this is being filmed, and in the place was a triangular, delta-shaped machine, object, craft.
The red, orange, glowing ball object was about approximately 2 feet off the ground. I cocked and locked the M60 machine gun. I was scared to death. I didn't know what that was. I didn't know if it was going to hurt me. Yeah, the airman jumped the fence and went out towards it, and if it had done anything to try to harm him, I was fully prepared to open fire on him.
When it broke into 3 pieces, the whole thing just blew us away. I mean, there's no aircraft that could do that. The movements, no aircraft can even do that today.
It was like a thick beam that was scanning the whole WSA, like he was looking for something.
Well, I watched cameras go through the actions of filming, and I know still pictures were taken. And off the fabric of this machine thing came this bluish gold bubble that was about 1 foot off the ground, and it split into 3. And inside that, the upper extremities of what I only can say was a non-human entity. We have actual motion picture film of the UFO, and it was given to the F-15 that flew from Germany onto Bentwaters Airfield, and it was handed to the pilot, canopy closed, and the plane took off.
This craft or whatever it was, it kind of started back, like it was backing out of the WSA, and it started going over the treetops of the forest.
What told me this was alive is that when they moved,
Okay, so I know at the end right there, it just said something about the coming soon in 2019, but actually that trailer was made back in 2019 and they've been working on it this entire time.
Mhm.
So finally it's about to be released this year. And I don't know about you guys, but
Yeah,
I would
it's
definitely want to go watch that.
right. It looks super interesting. That Rendlesham Forest case is filled with intrigue, and
Multiple witnesses.
right, multiple witnesses. I really want to know if he got any downloads, from when he
Mhm.
touched the craft. That's going to be a big one for me.
Yeah, and there seems to be a lot of talk about that in the chat already. George, did you want to unmute and talk about some of these things you have put in the chat over here?
Yeah, the downloads is what's most fascinating. The fellow who touched the craft, as soon as he laid his hand on it, he started receiving these images in his mind, and over the next couple of days, he continued to receive these downloads in binary ones and zeros.
Mm-hmm.
And there's been extensive study as to what this binary code seems to indicate. I mean, aside from coordinates, it seems to indicate that the craft was sent there as some kind of reconnaissance like aspect, and there was also some suggested warnings for how the planet is faring. But yeah, that's one of the things I'd like to ask Nick Pope, who
Mhm.
we have a upcoming interview with, because
Mhm.
he was part of the UK Ministry of Defense and head of their Aero equivalent UFO study program. So
Yeah.
I'd love to ask him about any further research or studies that they've done, not just for this case, but if they've seen any similar type craft in any other previous case files.
Right.
Yeah, that's that point you brought up about warnings about how the planet is faring. That comes up multiple times in numerous encounter events.
Mhm.
Numerous experiencers have stated the same thing, that they get this download from whatever this NHI is, that we need to take better care of our planet.
Yeah, I specifically thought of the aerial school where
Yeah,
all
that
those
one too.
kids got the
Mm-hmm.
images of Earth and how the aliens were telling them, you got to stop polluting and don't get too technologed. And
Yeah.
there have been other experiencers where they say they see like flashes of like what looks like doomsday kind of events where you see like everything on fire and
Mm-hmm.
flooding and all this other stuff. And they say that like the ultimate message is like that's a warning. It's like a, hey, look, this, if you guys keep doing what you've been doing, this is what's going to happen. So chill out, knock it off, and sit down.
Right.
Anybody else have any thoughts?
I just like to say that I want to see it now. I was getting goosebumps watching it. When I really, as a teenager, and I was still following this stuff, and the Rendlesham Forest was covered in, I think, like unsolved mysteries, stuff like that. Doesn't matter. I was just like, wow. It is probably one of the better, if not most, documented cases. Multiple eyewitnesses, military, and you can actually search through YouTube and such and listen to all of the audio on the second occasion where these American military go out towards these objects, and you can hear them talking. It puts you right there. But it literally puts you right there. You feel like I felt like I was shoulder to shoulder with these military personnel going out and checking.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And it's kind of amazed. It amazed me that that's even available. I mean, honestly, because they took video footage and that was taken from them, and that they didn't get that. But just wow, I just recommend everybody, at least at this point in time, just do a search for it. And then, yeah, if we find it, maybe put it in the description or something, Allie.
Okay.
But yeah, that's definitely, I want to see it now. I'm so excited about that. And I do hope that Mr. Pope would be kind enough to, answer some questions about that. So thank you.
Yeah.
Definitely. I'm excited to talk to Nick Pope myself, and shout out to George for setting that up. Thank you so much. Can't wait to do that. And did you have any final thoughts on Rendlesham or Capel Green?
Nothing other than I just am looking forward to it, and I can't wait for it to come out.
Same. Well, we got a lot of things coming out this year. We have a whole bunch of conferences that we rattled off, like, I think a week or two ago. James Fox is coming out with a new film. We have this film coming out. So there's lots of things to look forward to. Let's keep this ball rolling.
Yep.
We are the disclosure. Let's not let this get swept back under the rug like they've been doing for decades. And yeah, we're in this together. So thank you guys so much. That concludes this week's UAP Society, UAP and UFO News Show. Thanks so much for hanging out with us. And while you're here, do us a favor, click that like button, smash that subscribe, ring our little notification bell, drop a lovely comment down below, and share this video with your family and friends. Thank you so much. Help us spread the good word. Let's raise the collective consciousness together in unity.
Yep.
All right. Give me that heart. Much love, peace. And namaste.
I've been trying to call.